The year was 1999. The euro replaced the ECU as the official currency of the European Union. Bertrand Piccard and Brian Jones became the first men to successfully circumnavigate the globe nonstop in a hot air balloon. And Australia won the Cricket World Cup. Those events have nothing to do with one another, which is also how some viewers describe the numerous plot lines of Paul Thomas Anderson's third film. But Jesse never saw it. Until now. This is Movies I Missed 1999, Episode 4, Magnolia.
I'm Jesse Munoz.
And I'm Ryan Miller.
And this is Movies I Missed, covering the year 1999. Episode number 4. Today we're talking about a little film called Magnolia, released December 17th, 1999, with a running time of 3 hours and 8 minutes. I do want to give a warning. We will be discussing all aspects of this movie, so be advised that includes spoilers. Magnolia is a collection of stories that loosely interconnect, beginning with Earl Partridge, a television producer dying of cancer who seeks to reconcile with his estranged son, Frank Mackey, a misogynistic motivational speaker. Earl's nurse, Phil, tries to locate Frank to fulfill Earl's dying wish. At the same time, Earl's trophy wife, Linda, struggles with guilt over marrying him for money and later falling in love with him. Meanwhile, police officer Jim Curring investigates a disturbance at the apartment of Claudia Gator, a cocaine addict with whom he begins a romantic relationship. Claudia's father, Jimmy Gator, is a TV game show host who is also dying of cancer and seeks forgiveness from Claudia for sexually abusing her as a child. The former quiz show champion, Donnie Smith, faces financial ruin and is obsessed with getting braces to impress a bartender. As the day progresses, a series of coincidences and emotional confrontations culminate in an extraordinary rainstorm of frogs, forcing each character to confront their past and seek redemption.
Respect the cock. And tame the cunt. Tame it. Take it on head first with the skills that I will teach you at work and say, no! No! You will not control me. No! No! You will not take my soul. No! No! You will not win this game. Because it is a game, guys. You want to think it's not, huh? You want to think it's not, you go back to the schoolyard and you have that crush on big-titted Mary Jane. Respect the cock. You are betting this thought. I am the one who's in charge. I am the one who says yes, no, now, here. Because it's universal, man. It is evolutional. It is anthropological. It is biological. Oh, it is animal. We are men.
Ryan, Magnolia.
Did you write that? You took that from somewhere, right? That synopsis?
I took part of it and rewrote some of it, yes.
I feel like it does this movie a disservice to, if somebody hasn't seen it, to read that plot synopsis. That's like way too much detail for a movie like this.
I agree with you. It's a very detailed, synopsis. It does no justice to what the movie is. I 100% agree, but that is what the movie is, right? Like this is the movie.
I mean,
but it's
yes,
not
but
what the
no.
movie is about.
I mean, I feel like the perfect synopsis for this movie is like the lives of like 10 or something. It might be more than that. Disparate people all living in wherever the hell they're supposed to be, are connected by chance and circumstance or something. I feel like that is the best way to describe this movie. Like, that was just too much information.
It was a lot of information. That was the whole story. That was Magnolia. But yes, it's to sum up Magnolia in a summary is almost unfair to the movie because it's more than its sum of parts. It's
That would be like if you were reading a synopsis for a movie and you were like, Vincent Vega and his buddy Jules go to a house of a person and they have a cheeseburger, and then you don't describe the plot of Pulp Fiction. You just say like a bunch of people's lives intertwine and shit gets fucked up. Go watch it.
I'll let you write the summary for the next one.
I was assuming you took it off of Wikipedia or something, and I'm like, that's not how you want to introduce people to this movie if they haven't seen it.
It's the summary of the movie. That's what it is. I know what you're saying. Yes, the movie is more than just the plot.
I wouldn't
points
call
of
that a
the movie.
summary. I'd call that like a plot description or something. Like you're literally just like, this person and this person. This happens to them. This person, this person. We don't have to get hung up on it. I feel like that. I feel like that's the wrong way to introduce someone to this movie.
All right.
But maybe everyone listening to this has already seen it. I don't know.
I mean, this is a big one, right? I feel like this is a big miss from 1999, just in the fact that this is like the beginning of Paul Thomas Anderson's career, like coming off of Boogie Nights, which was, I think, pretty massive as far as like both critical and commercial success. And then he followed up with a 3-hour movie about sad people. It's like, I don't know. It's a big one. I feel like it's a big miss. So
after I was done watching the movie again, because I had seen this one before, I watched a little bit of the special features on the Blu-ray. And I think Paul Thomas Anderson mentioned that, Boogie Nights came out and was a success. And so the studio was basically just like, gave him free reign, like your next movie, do whatever you want. And he was basically like, well, I can't let this opportunity pass me by. So he just made the movie that he felt he would never get to make.
Yeah, feels like that. Well, let's start with Boogie Nights. Where are you at on Boogie Nights?
I rewatched it like a year ago and fucking loved it. Like, I don't really remember what my feelings were on it before. I hadn't seen it in like 20 years or something. But, yeah. On basically a first time watch, because I remembered so little. I loved it. I thought it was great.
It's like one of the best, right? From the 90s. Like, it's just so good. It hits every point so well. The performances are great. Probably the best Mark Wahlberg's ever been. It's just one of those like almost perfect, if not perfect movies, I would say. It's a tough thing to follow up. Have you seen Heart 8, his first movie?
No, I actually haven't. And looking at the cast for this and reading about them a little bit, every other goddamn person in this movie was like, oh, they were also in Heart 8. They were also in Heart 8. So I'm like, I guess I got to watch that now.
Yeah. I think the biggest takeaway from this, and there's a lot to take away from this movie, I miss Philip Seymour Hoffman. I really miss that dude. I think that dude is so good. And he doesn't have the biggest part in this, but when he's on screen, he's so good. And his pre and Mission Impossible 3 scenes with Tom Cruise are also really, really fun as well. Fun's not the right word. They're really, really good. But it was interesting to see them and then see their roles in Mission Impossible. And I wonder if I have to imagine that played a part in him being a part of Mission Impossible.
It's funny.
3.
I didn't even make that connection. It didn't even occur to me that it's
really?
like these guys were also in that. Yeah, no, until you just said it.
It's so funny because their characters are so different from their characters in Mission Impossible 3, which I am a fan of. But the movie's directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, directed and written by, and then his longtime cinematographer, Robert Elswit, also shot this movie. He shot like basically all of his stuff up until I think maybe Licorice Pizza or Phantom Thread. So has a very cool, distinct look to all his movies. I think he's probably won some Oscars. I wouldn't be surprised. It stars Tom Cruise, Julianne Moore, Philip Seymour Hoffman, William H. Macy, John C. Reilly, some other names of people that aren't familiar with, as far as like, I couldn't tell you who their names were, like Jason Robards. I couldn't tell you who that was, but I've seen him in stuff before. And then it's filled with just like Patton Oswalt, Thomas Jane, Alfred Molina, Felicia Huffman, Clark Gregg. It's got Luis Guzman. There's just like a million people. It's like scattered throughout this movie.
I caught pretty much all of them. Who was Thomas Jane?
Thomas Jane. I want to say he was I didn't know he was in the movie. I had to look it up, but I think he was a younger version of one of the host, Jimmy Gator. I think he was a younger version of the Ghost.
Like, really?
Yeah, like when they show Donnie, William H. Macy's character on the game show. I think, and I could be wrong, I should look this up. I think Thomas Jane played the host there.
So I mean, what are we talking? 2 seconds of screen time?
I don't even know if it's like more than a few frames in the movie, actually, to be honest. But
I'm sure when I saw this movie originally, because I'm pretty sure I have a recollection. I believe I watched this in my second year in college at the Kubert School. So that would have made it like 04, 05-ish when I first saw this. I'm sure I had no fucking clue who Patton Oswalt was. I mean, he's got a kind of small part in the beginning of the movie, but Alfred Molina.
He played
he was I know who he was in it.
Yeah.
William H. Macy's boss. But yeah, I would have known him because of Spider-Man 2 already at that time, I think. But yeah, like Thomas Jane, I saw you listed him and in the cast, and I could not for the life of me think of who he was in this.
Presents with a double ass meaning I bestow. With my riff and my fur, but you don't hit me though. Think fast, kiss me out, cause I throw what I know with the resonance. For your trouble ass, feed it in the wind yourself off of the back of the shelf. Jackass, crackers, body stackers, dick two niggas, master pain, yo.
Hold it, homeboy. I don't need to hear that word.
Living to get older with a chip on your shoulder, except you think you got a grip, cause your hip got a holster. Ain't no confessor, so Buster, you better just shut the fuck up. Try to listen and learn.
Oh, cut it, Coolio. I've had enough with the mouth and the language.
I'm almost done.
Finish it up without the lip.
Check that ego, come off it. I'm the prophet, the professor. I'ma teach you about the worm, who eventually turned to catch wreck with the neck of a long-time oppressor. And he's running from the devil, but the debt is always gaining. And if he's worth being hurt, he's worth bringing pain in. When the sunshine don't work, the good Lord bring the rain in. And that shit will help you solve the case.
Okay, whatever that meant. Sure, it's real helpful, Ice-T.
It's it's probably frames. I don't even know if it's like a full 24 frames.
That's bananas.
It's probably a little bit more than that. I'm just joking, but it's not a lot. I'm pretty sure it was just the flashback.
What about Orlando Jones? I see you have him listed here too. Who was he?
I think he was the guy that John C. Reilly was shooting at or gets shot at by.
Do you even see his face?
I don't think so.
It could have been anybody.
I mean, but
he's literally like a guy wearing a big poofy jacket with a brown hood up. Like
yes, yeah. Okay, confirmed. Thomas Jane was young Jimmy Gator. That was the host.
Wow.
Orlando Jones is billed as Worm.
Worm. I thought the kid was Worm, or the kid talked about Worm in his rap.
Yeah,
maybe that was him in the like with the hood up.
I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, if true, I don't think you ever see his face.
You saw Agent Coulson, right?
Yeah, early-ish in the movie, I saw him and I was like, he looks familiar, but something about. Maybe it's because he's younger, because I didn't really know who Clark Gregg was until the Avengers in 2012.
Of course, who would?
But it's like, not even just that he was younger. I feel like he was actually kind of like fit looking, like kind of buff. Yeah. Like he looked more of like a macho dude than I picture Agent Coulson being. But yeah, by the end of the movie, when you get a little more look at him, I was like, yeah, I think that is him.
Yeah. Paul F. Tompkins, who is worked with Paul Thomas Anderson before, does the voice for Seduce and Destroy whenever there's like some voice stuff for there. Marilyn Rice
I didn't notice that.
Does the voice of Janet, who's on the phone with Tom Cruise. She's like her personal
I didn't notice
assistant.
that either.
Right, like this stuff you wouldn't really know. Robert Downey Sr. is the show director. Like there's so many people in the movie, and most of them for, again, seconds, if not anything. But, you know.
I mean, the movie already has a big cast, and then you're just like, oh, all these other name people, either you don't even see them or like...
Totally. I mean, that's how many people wanted to work with PTA after coming off of Boogie Nights, right? They just put me in your movie. I'll be in
yeah,
whatever.
And I mean, this is the perfect movie for it because it's such a big ensemble cast.
So the movie it definitely has a theme to the entire movie, right? It opens up with those examples, which I thought was an excellent way of opening the movie.
Yeah, it opens with like a bunch of cases of like Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Right. Like the attempted suicide that wasn't a suicide because he gets shot by his mom, who was arguing with his dad, and that was the reason he was jumping, and he was the one that loaded the gun because he wanted them to kill each other. It's like that.
And if he hadn't been shot, then the net that he didn't know was there would have broken his fall, and he would have survived. And yeah, and
then with Patton Oswalt and his whole story, I mean, you get these like really interesting stories in the first like few minutes of the movie, and that's not even what the movie's about. But it is what the movie's
I mean,
about.
That's the thing. I think that's a really cool opening. I'm not like hung up on it. It's not like this makes the movie a bad experience for me or something, but it really does lead you to believe, oh, it's all going to somehow come together almost in like a Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Like, wow, what a weird coincidence that all these plot lines tied together and have this like, you know, coincidental ending. It's like the movie leads you to think it's going to be that because you're seeing all these stories taking place at the same time with all these little connections between the characters. But then it's like frogs fall from the sky.
Right.
And it's just like whatever movie you thought you were watching, it's just like, nope, we're ending it here.
Yeah.
Like the story could continue. Anything could happen, but frogs. It's like they were the Deus Ex Machina. We're just bringing them in to like put a stop to everything.
I mean, they were foretold throughout the movie. There was definitely Exodus 8:2 signs throughout the movie. Did you notice that?
No, but then I thought the thing that was interesting about that was, again, I watched some of the special features, and Paul Thomas Anderson claimed that at least when he was writing the movie, gosh, there was a reference to something else in pop culture or media about frogs falling from the sky, but what he claimed in the special features anyway, is that he did not know about the biblical like relevance of frogs like falling from the sky when he wrote it. Which if what you say is true about there being like biblical references within the movie, somebody's got their wires crossed or is fabricating things or something. But
well, there's a scene in the game show in the audience. The main game show is about to go live, and someone in the audience is holding up a sign that says Exodus 8:2, which is the verse about raining down frogs when the Israelites were in Egypt. And
I just thought it was weird when I heard that in the special features, because I'm like, how do you make such a big part of your movie that frogs fall from the sky, but you don't know that it's
right?
It's in any way related to, like, that's a very specific thing from the Bible.
It's in the movie. Like, there's a scene also when what's her name is Julianne Moore is driving around, and then Jimmy Gator's wife is also driving around. I think it's all kind of happening at the same time. No, Julianne Moore's in the ambulance. It's right before the frogs rain down. If you look on all the signs on the street, like there's advertising signs, it's Exodus 8:2. And so it's like, it definitely knew what it was doing, unless someone else put it in his movie without him knowing about it.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy that.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm pretty sure it was like when he was writing it, he claimed to have not known. And I suppose that means like someone would have read the script and been like, oh, like from the Bible. And he was like, what do you mean? And then decided to add stuff. But like, to write something like that has no religious context as far as he knows, and then to find out that it is related to religion and just start dropping religious mentions into the movie seems really weird. So I don't know where the wires are crossed here, but I thought it was weird when I heard that in the special features.
That is weird. It's so weird because it's there. It's in the movie.
I know. But I swear that's what somebody said in the special features that I just watched 2 days ago.
I mean, the verse even pertains to kind of what the movie's about too. It's like, if you refuse to let them go, behold, I will smite all your borders with frogs, which feels like a story about your parents, right? Like dealing with broken parents it's kind of like the theme throughout the movie that I saw with the kid and Michael Bowen's kid being the smart one and him trying to live vicariously through him, making money. And then Donnie also being the character that was on the show that his parents stole his money. And then you got Tom Cruise and his dad and another 1999 movie that deals with molesting your daughter. That's the theme of our series this year. You got what's that guy from Seinfeld, the librarian?
Philip Baker Hall. Bookman, the library cop.
Yes, that's all I could think of when I see him now.
When I see his face, that's immediately who I think of too.
Yeah. Find out that he is also a child molester. So I don't know. It's like, it's not about, it's definitely trying to say something. I think it's definitely open to interpretation and what you can take from everything that's sort of happening. Unlike some of the other movies, because I saw the runtime when I started, it was like 3 hours. Holy shit. Like, give me a good 90-minute movie and I'm happy, which just does not happen anymore. But I'll tell you, I did not feel the runtime at all. I was thoroughly entertained for 3 full hours. I mean,
he's juggling so many plates. Like, there's so many different storylines that he keeps cutting back to that it's like you don't even have time to be bored because like he doesn't linger on any one story too long before you jump to something else. Like, one of the only other instances of something like this that I can think of is a movie that it's kind of controversial. A lot of people don't like, or even more people probably haven't seen, but I loved, was Cloud Atlas, which the Wachowskis made.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either.
And in that movie, it's like 6 different storylines taking place in 6 different eras, and all the same actors play different characters in each era. So like Tom Hanks plays 6 different people in the movie. And it's like you're watching 6 stories that don't take place at the same time, but they've edited them together. So like at the end of the movie, you're watching all 6 climaxes take place at the same time. It's really interesting, but it's like the only other instance I can think of similar to this movie where there's points in the film where multiple stories are like coming to a head at the same time. Like the whole, like the climactic part of the game show where like the kid has peed himself and everyone's telling him to go up and he doesn't want to, and they're cutting around to other things that are happening at the same time. Like, it's just inherently easy to, keep someone's attention and keep the tension up when you're not just focused on one story, you're focused on like 5 at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Was there any of the stories that stood out more to you than others?
I would say there's 1 or 2 that felt lesser than the rest. Like, I feel like William H. Macy's story doesn't get the most screen time, isn't the most compelling. Not a ton happens in it.
He's got to get braces, man.
Yeah. I have no problem with it.
I'm just kidding.
It's just like his story.
Sure.
And to a degree, John C. Reilly's a little bit.
Yes, but I actually liked his story a lot.
I do too. I'm not saying I dislike any of them, but like it feels, it's like when I think back on the movie as a whole, I'm picturing mostly the game show stuff. Yeah. I mean, I saw there's like forget where I saw it on Google or something, but someone made like a little map of how all the different characters connect and intersect. Mm-hmm. And all the stuff with Philip Baker Hall, Bookman from Seinfeld, like he connects to like a bunch of different people in different ways, but then there's like this little side loop where a bunch of characters only connect to like one other person. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's where like William H. Macy and
even like Julianne Moore, right? She barely connects to anyone else's stories.
I mean, she technically connects to Philip Seymour Hoffman, Jason Robards, and Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
I don't want him to die. I didn't love him when we met, and I did so many bad things to him that he doesn't know. I mean, things that I want to confess to him, but now I do. I love him.
Linda, what kind of medication
This isn't any fucking medication talking. This isn't, I don't know. Can you give me nothing? You have power of attorney. Can you go in the final fucking moment and change the will? I don't want any money. I couldn't live with myself with this thing that I've done. I've done so many bad things. I fucked around. I fucking cheated on him, Alan. There, you're his lawyer, our lawyer, I'm his wife, we are married. I broke the contract of marriage. I fucked around on him many times. I sucked other men's cocks.
Adultery is not against the law. It's not something you can use in court to discredit the will. Linda, calm down.
I can't.
You don't have to change the will. If what you want to do is take nothing, you renounce the will when the time comes.
What does it mean? Where does the money go?
It goes to the nearest relative.
What's that? Is Frank? No, that can't happen. Earl doesn't want him to have anything.
Well, that's what will
This
happen.
is so fucked up and over the top, I can hardly
Linda,
stand
stop!
it.
Now you take a moment, you breathe, and one thing at a time.
Shut the fuck up.
You want me to help you, Linda?
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
But then, like, for example, like John C. Reilly, his big connection is Philip Baker Hall's daughter in the movie. And then really that feels like that's the only connection until at the very end during the frog scene, he runs into William H. Macy. And so that little chart, that little graph or like drawing that I was talking about, I saw everybody's connected to at least two other people in the movie. But that's one where I was like, he and William H. Macy barely connect. So like, it feels like each of them only connects to like one other person, but it's just, that was like a visual way when I saw it that kind of was like, oh yeah, those seem kind of minor compared to the others. But
I really liked John C. Reilly just because it felt so much different than so many other characters that John C. Reilly plays. He's a little bit dopey, but he's a little bit more earnest than most of the characters I feel like I've seen John C. Reilly play. He always just feels kind of, in most movies that I see him in, just a big dumb dope, right? Like he's Boogie Nights, he's a dope. But he just kind of, I don't know, this character felt so much more earnest than the characters that I've seen him play before.
something else that I learned from watching those special features is, you know, he was in Hard 8, he was in Boogie Nights, so he's friends with P.T. Anderson. And when Paul Thomas Anderson was writing the movie, like the initial characters that he started off with were Jimmy Gator, the game show host played by Philip Baker Hall, and his daughter played by
Laura Walters.
Yeah. Who I'm not really familiar with. I've seen some other stuff she's in, but like those were the characters he started with. And then as he was like putting all these other characters together, he's like kind of writing for certain people and like friends of his. And apparently John C. Reilly, like he had said to John C. Reilly, I'm writing this thing, I'll put you in it. And Reilly specifically asked, like, I guess at that point in his career, he's like, I mostly play like tough guys and stuff like that. Like, can I have like a role where I really get to like actually act dramatically? And so he wrote him this like love story character that he normally, like a guy like him, he's like kind of a big dopey looking dude with like curly hair, probably not going to be like the romantic lead in a film. So like, I thought that was cool.
Yeah. When I think about it, I can't think of a lot of movies where you see a romantic side of, or even like a love story side to his characters. They're usually supporting.
That guy has just a fascinating career because like he started off, like one of his first movies was Casualties of War, a Brian De Palma Vietnam War movie about Sean Penn like kidnapping this Vietnamese woman to just use as like a sex slave, and Michael J. Fox wants no part of it, but John C. Reilly's just like following along with it. And like it feels like he had like some more dramatic stuff early in his career, like Days of Thunder was a kind of early movie for him. But then he's in like these interesting kind of dramatic movies that like Paul Thomas Anderson's doing. And then it's like all of a sudden he did not really have a career in comedy, but like him and Will Ferrell suddenly started doing movies together. And it's like now he is known for comedy. Yeah. And it's like people forgot that he had a career for like 15 plus years before Talladega Nights.
Right. Did you know they had a falling out?
Who, him and Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
Was it over that Sherlock Holmes movie that tanked that the two of them did?
No, it was over the Lakers miniseries on HBO.
Oh, you know, I did hear something about that. I don't know the details, but...
Yeah, I think one of them got the role that the other one wanted, and they got into an actual like fight over it and have parted ways.
Yeah, that sounds crazy. Familiar.
The Lakers. I love John C. Reilly. I think he's awesome.
Yeah, he's good.
But really good in this. William H. Macy kind of playing the William H. Macy role. Like it feels a lot like Fargo or something.
A lot like Fargo.
Just like the down on the luck, getting himself into situations that he shouldn't be in. I haven't seen Shameless, but I imagine it's a character very similar to that. Like it just feels like, oh, this is the William H. Macy role. You give it to William H. Macy. Someone on a movie I haven't mentioned at all, Tom Cruise, man. Like, I don't know if we were talking about this on a previous episode or not, but I miss this Tom Cruise, the actor Tom Cruise that was around in the 80s and the 90s that would do parts like this. You know, he's doing his thing now and I love it. The Mission Impossible movies are great and he's found his niche. He's making these, you know, the Top Guns and the Mission Impossibles, and he's making movies that we need. We need those movies because no one else is making them like he is. But I miss this Tom Cruise. Just like goes all out with this filthy, disgusting character. But it's so good. He's so good, man. Yeah. What's the line? Was it like respect the cock or something? What's the line that he says in the movie?
I mean, he does say that in the movie. I mean, I think the worst part was when he comes back for the second part of his seminar and he's covering the topic of like how to pretend you're like a nice, decent person. When he's like trying to explain how to get women.
Yeah, man,
now so we're going to cover how to pretend that you are a nice person. I still think, you know, he started off his career in primarily like romantic leads and like dramatic stuff. And then I think that the whole, you know, jumping on the sofa on Oprah and all that stuff, like, I think that largely the female population stopped viewing him as like a desirable sex symbol. Mm-hmm. And so he had to fall back on like action movies because that's something that he can do that doesn't have to rely on being like sexy suave guy. You know, he can just be a badass and he does a lot of sci-fi and action movies now.
What's the end of his run, right? Like, when does that end? Because if you look in the 90s, he's doing like Days of Thunder, Born on the 4th of July, A Few Good Men, The Firm, Interview with the Vampire, Mission Impossible, Jerry Maguire, Eyes Wide Shut, and then Magnolia here in 99, Vanilla Sky in 2001, and then Minority Report in 2002, The Last Samurai in 2003. Like, where does the Collateral
I feel like
go?
the movie... I feel like right in there somewhere is when the whole, you know, sofa event happened, because I remember feeling like at the time Mission Impossible 3 didn't do probably as well as it could have because it was like his first like big blockbuster movie coming back after that like weirdness. But it is the movie that kind of helped like save his career a little bit. That's the way I remember feeling. So I think that was like 2006 Mission Impossible 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So if you're saying that The Last Samurai was like 02, 03, I feel like it's somewhere right in there that all happened.
So 03 is Last Samurai, 04 is Collateral, 05 is War of the Worlds.
Yeah, I feel like it's right in there somewhere.
Yeah. And I think Mission Impossible hits the third one, and then that's kind of sends him into the trajectory that he's in now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, so he does Mission Impossible 3, Lions for Lambs I've never seen. That's a Robert Redford picture.
Yeah, he plays like a politician or something.
Tropic Thunder, he's got a small part in. Then he does Valkyrie, which
Tropic Thunder was also another one where it's like he's trying to win people back to his side. Like, look, I can be fun. I can be a likable guy. I'm funny and normal, right?
Yeah. Valkyrie that same year, which I don't think was a big hit. That was a Bryan Singer movie. Night and Day with Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, no one really remembers that one too fondly.
Then we have Gross Protocol, which was, I think, a pretty big hit. He does Rock of Ages in 2012.
One of the only Tom Cruise movies I haven't seen.
Jack Reacher also that year. I don't remember how well that did.
I did well enough to get a sequel.
Okay, $218 million on a $60 million budget. So yeah, I did all right.
And that was his first movie with Christopher McQuarrie.
Okay.
Who are now thick as thieves, the two of them.
Totally. You've got Oblivion and then Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, a lot of sci-fi, a lot of action.
Edge of Tomorrow, I feel like didn't do as well as they'd hoped. It still did pretty well.
I feel like they've been talking forever about a sequel, and it was just the 10th anniversary of that movie coming out recently, and I couldn't believe it had already been 10 years, but I saw Tom Cruise posting on his social media, or his, you know, whoever's in charge of his social media posting about like, it's the 10th anniversary. I just want to say how great Emily Blunt is. And I love that the fans love this movie.
I would love to see a sequel to that. And then you've got Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation, Jack Reacher 2, Never Go Back, The Mummy.
Oh, yeah.
American Made, Mission Impossible Fallout, Top Gun Maverick, and then Mission Impossible. So let's see, how many Mission Impossibles in the last 10 years? 1, 2, 3. Three within the last 10 years.
And that last one was delayed a ton by COVID and whatnot. So we probably ought to have like 9 and 10 by now.
When I think of this movie, it's acting, right? There's no stunts. There's no action. It's just pure acting.
It's like a role that somebody who's like an actor can sink their teeth into and do something different and push themselves. And
right. So if you go backwards, Edge of Tomorrow, he's good in it, but it's an action movie. Oblivion, sci-fi. I don't know if it's how much action is in Oblivion. I can't remember because I fell asleep in the theater.
I love that movie. It's got some action.
It's not a acting piece though, right? He's still doing the Tom Cruise thing.
That is just any number of people could have played that part, but he is good in it, you know?
Yeah. So Jack Reacher, I haven't seen, or is that kind of like pre-John Wick?
Sort of. He's like a big guy who just like roams around and helps people. It's like political thriller action movie. Werner Herzog plays the bad guy. It's pretty generic, honestly.
Rock of Ages, neither one of us has seen. Ghost Protocols, again, action, night and day, romantic action.
Yeah, that's like a date night kind of movie, but it's, I would say, first and foremost, an action film.
Have you seen Valkyrie?
Yep. I saw it in the theater, whatever year it came out. I don't remember thinking it was great.
Yeah. Lions for Lambs. You've seen that one, the Robert Redford one?
That one I haven't. Rock of Ages, American Made, and like one movie very early in his career, Losing It, I haven't seen, but I think I've seen everything else he's in.
I'm trying to think if is it Collateral is the last one? That's kind of an action movie. It's a Michael Mann action movie though. So
being a Michael Mann movie, that definitely feels like I want to work with this director kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
Plus it's like, he's dyeing his hair. He's playing a character that's atypical for him because he's like kind of the villain, What year was that?
That's 2004, so 20 years ago.
Yeah, and like, I think you can get by with War of the Worlds. Like, yes, it's a sci-fi movie, but it's like, a remake of a classic. He's working with Spielberg. I feel like that is right around the cutoff.
Okay, so that's where
he stopped being like an actor.
Yes.
And he became an action star.
Yeah. I missed that stuff because you go back and watch like A Few Good Men, which I watched for the first time a few years ago. That's so good, man. And stuff like, I haven't seen Rain Man in a while, but Rain Man was really good. And even like, Top Gun, you think of Top Gun being like an action movie. It is an action movie, but it's 80s action, right? It feels so much different than what the stuff is nowadays, where you had to have people that could act. A Few Good Men, The Firm, Interview with the Vampire, all that stuff's good. And in this, Magnolia, like this is, he was so good in this. I just loved having him tell Philip Seymour Hoffman that he's going to drop kick those dogs. I thought that was so funny, man. There was a lot of like really, really dark humor in this movie as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Cast is just really good across the board. Julianne Moore is basically acting on her own. She's basically doing like these like long monologues that are by herself. Like it's almost like she's like, let me just monologue and cry a bunch. And that's kind of what she is.
Yeah, they just wound her up and let her go. Yeah. They gave her like a couple cups of coffee and like a few speed pills and were just like, go.
But it's like, she's so good at it. So why not? It's just really, it felt like he just wrote that for her. Cause she's connected to Philip Seymour Hoffman and Jason Robards, but most of her scenes are with like the pharmacist or the lawyer or whatever. And most of them aren't saying anything. She's just kind of like spilling her guts or, going through these big emotional moments. So it's such an interesting character too. She is a gold digger. But now she fell in love with her husband as he dies. It's just crazy. That stuff is funny. And then you got the daughter of Philip Baker Hall and like we're introduced to her. And she's just like picking up a random dude, hooking up and doing drugs. And then you find out that it's her dad and she wants nothing to do with him. Do you immediately know that he's like a creeper?
I mean, even that I feel like is something, not to go back to this again, but that description that you read at the top, like you don't find out about the molestation thing until the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's bad to reveal that right at the front because I hadn't seen it in, 20 years probably. So I didn't remember the thing with her and her dad. So like when he comes over and he's trying to talk to her in the beginning and tell her like, hey, I'm dying. And she's just like screaming at him to get out. I was sitting there like, what the fuck is her problem?
Right.
Like, and of course it makes sense when you find out, but the whole movie I didn't know. And then when it's revealed, it's just, you don't picture that from him just based on what they show you.
Did you ever touch her?
I don't know.
Jimmy.
I know, I really don't.
But you can't say.
Well, I don't know what I've
Yes, you
done.
do. You do. But you won't say.
I don't know. What? So, please? Please.
You deserve to die alone for what you've done.
I don't know what I've done.
Yes, you do.
Rose, if I said that I knew, would you stay?
No.
But I don't know what I've done.
You should know better.
You know,
Right.
but
No, because he seems like an upstanding citizen, but no, he's a freaking creeper.
I mean, even the fact that like he's worked for like however many decades on a TV show with kids.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, it's so gross.
Yeah.
Oh, so gross.
But man, it's so, I don't know. It's interesting the way that they play it. Like, not that I don't believe her, but like when the wife confronts him, like, did you do this? And he is like, I honestly don't know. Like, what exactly did I do? I'm not sure. Like, is that his alcohol problem and he just doesn't remember? Is it's been so long and he's just been in denial for so long that he honestly can't recall? Is that him lying? I don't know.
I think it's him not owning up to it. Like he's not.
It very well could be, but I think it's, yeah, this guy, Philip Baker Hall. I mean, he's in Midnight Run. He's got a small part in Air Force One. Got a small part in The Truman Show. I've seen him in The Talented Mr. Ripley, but it's been a while since I've watched that. I don't remember him in it. I don't really remember him in Zodiac. Like, I was looking over his filmography.
I'm looking at all these movies that you just mentioned, and I'm like, where?
Yeah,
Where is he
but
in these
like
movies?
the one thing that always sticks out in my mind is Bookman on Seinfeld,
Yes.
which was a one episode, like, you know, supporting character, but he's really funny and effective and deadpan. And I'm like, okay, he's been in these bigger movies, but obviously not in like really big parts. But his performance in this movie was fantastic.
So good. So
and
good.
like at the end there, that's part of what I'm saying is like when he's claiming that he doesn't remember, he's like performing it in such a way that I don't know exactly what he means or like whether to believe him. And I think that that's impressive. And I'm like, why isn't this guy in bigger roles and things?
Yeah.
Or are there just like some great movies out there he's the star of that I don't know about? I mean, I think he is a main character in Hard 8, the P.T. Anderson's first movie, which, you know, based on this conversation, I really need to go back and watch.
Right.
But
yeah. No,
I mean, I thought he was really good.
Maybe it's the right roles, right? Like you can't just put him in any role, even if you are a really, really good actor. Like he's got a look and a feel to him.
I guess that he does feel like a character actor. Like, okay, he's in all those big movies I just named, but probably in small parts that, you know, he's got a couple minutes of screen time or whatever because he's got a look and he's good enough to like play a specific kind of like grumpy old man character or something. But this feels like maybe one of the few instances where somebody actually gave him a meaty part, and whether he had something to prove or he's just that good and doesn't often get the chance because he's, you know, a kind of short, funny looking dude with a with a gravelly voice. I don't know. But yeah, I was super impressed by him. I thought he was great
cast.
in the movie.
He was such a good game show host for what this movie was. I thought he was great.
Yeah.
Melinda Dillon, you have a bunch of stuff listed for her. I don't remember. Was she a child in Close Encounters of the Third Kind? She must have been, right?
I thought that she was that she plays his wife in this. Jimmy's wife.
Oh, I'm reading the wrong one.
Wife.
I'm reading the wrong one. Okay.
You know, I'm pretty sure she was like the mom in Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Okay.
And she's the mom in Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Were you thinking of the daughter?
I was thinking of the daughter. Yes. And in Christmas Story, she was the mom in a Christmas Story too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, Melora Walters is not a name that I recognize, but she is in a bunch of things I've seen.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a lot of people in this movie that are like that. It's like, man, apparently they're in these movies. I mean, we listed them off at the top of the show. What? She's in Dead Poet Society, Eraser. She was in Boogie Nights, Cold Night, and Butterfly Effect. Yeah,
but like she's in Boogie Nights, she's in this. She also has, from what I was reading, a small part in Hearty yet again. So like again, I'm pretty sure that Paul Thomas Anderson said, like, while he was working on Boogie Nights, like when they were editing the movie or whatever, he started to get the ideas for this movie. And so, gosh, I didn't think to write down her name. There's a female musician,
Amy Mann.
Yeah. So he's like personal friends with her. And apparently, like, this movie, in a manner of speaking, is like an adaptation of like a bunch of her songs and like inspired by her songs.
Yeah.
And so like his first ideas for this movie were, I'm going to like adapt some of her songs into a film. And Melora Walters and Philip Baker Hall, both of whom he'd worked with before, were the first two people he thought of in those roles. So like, just goes to show you want to be friends with somebody who's really talented.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you and I who, you know, watch a fair amount of movies may not know your name, but you get those choice parts in Magnolia, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Amy Mann plays obviously a big role throughout the movie. There's a sequence where everyone sings one of her songs. It's called Wise Up. And I think she has a song also that closes the film. Not super familiar. I know her name. I wasn't really familiar with her music before this, but fits beautifully and fits the tone of the movie. So that makes a lot of sense. It's just so many good performances. And I mean, this is Paul Thomas Anderson, right? Like the way the movie looks, the way it's shot, a lot of the stuff in the movie is just so well done. And not only from a writing standpoint, but from a film standpoint, it's just people talking, and it's beautiful and gorgeous, and love the way it looks. It's so good.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel, you know, this is a movie that you can debate the meaning and the message and all this stuff ad nauseum. I can't explain like what the hell the deal is with the frogs at the end. The movie isn't interested in explaining it. And you'd almost think a big thing like that, like it's the climax of the movie. Frogs rain down from the sky and like wreck cars and, you know, knock fucking William H. Macy off of a telephone pole and he breaks his teeth.
Yep.
And it's like the big climax of the film. And I don't get it at all, but it doesn't really affect my enjoyment of the movie. And I mean, I think that says something. It's kind of like when on the last episode when we were talking about Summer of Sam, and I was like, you know, the Son of Sam stuff doesn't have a direct effect on anything that happens in the movie. Right. It's just there, and it doesn't bother me one way or the other. It's kind of the same thing with this. It's just the performances are so good, the characters are so good, the writing is so good, everything else about it is so good that the fact that it doesn't all come together in the end the way you think it's going to because of the like prologue stuff, it doesn't bother me, and I'm even surprised to say that.
I don't think it's a movie. If you're going to the movie for it to explain things to you, like this is why X and Y happens, it's the wrong type of movie. This is a movie where you go in and you get something out of it, and you take away what you want to take away from it. It's not Paul Thomas Anderson trying to tell you like, moral of the story is this. It's like, what do you get out of it? What, you know, It's like, and I love that stuff. I love it where it's like, no, it's not. Here's what it means. You know, take with it what you will. And there's things that people will relate to. There's things that people will connect to. And there's things that people will take away from the movie. And through all of that, story wise, it's just a cool ass, well-acted movie. Like, so it has all these different things going for it.
I'm 65 years old, and I'm ashamed. A million years ago, the fucking regret and guilt, these things don't let anyone ever say to you, you shouldn't regret anything. Don't do that. Don't. You regret what you fucking want. Use that regret for anything, any way you want. You can use it, okay? Oh, good.
It's just weird to think that since the frogs don't have any basis in logic in the movie in the least. It's just something that happens at the end, you know, whether or not there's references to whatever that Bible passage or verse or whatever you were talking about was, like, in the film. It's just interesting to think that, like, there's no real thematic connection to the frog thing. So it's like if frogs fall from the sky at the end of Forrest Gump. Like,
right.
It could be any movie that this happens in, you know, because there's no real reason for it.
Yeah.
But it just so happens that the guy who decided to write it into his film was PTA when he was making this. And you'd think, because it's so out of left field and unexplained and illogical, that it would be like a sticking point. And I'm sure for some people it is, but it doesn't bother me. I don't know. It's weird. Like, I had seen it. Here's a question. Did you know that was coming since you hadn't seen it before?
It was like in a vague memory, I think, that I've had that spoiled for me. But I was so into the movie that I wasn't expecting like dramatic conclusion. You know what I mean? Like, I was expecting more all character stuff. Yeah. And like the conclusion I imagined was like Tom Cruise talking with his dad, right? Like that sort of conclusion. I didn't expect, like, even though the movie kind of sets up like death almost in the beginning, I wasn't expecting like a big thing. I kind of knew in my head that there was frogs, but I was so engrossed in the movie that it didn't really change anything.
I mean, that would be the more interesting thing to me, is if you somehow had no idea and then the frogs happened. Because, like, I knew it was coming, and it had been so long. I was like, I don't think there's any reason for it. And then it happens, and I was like, yeah, no, there's no reason for it. But like, I mean, knowing that it was coming, like, I can't imagine what I thought the first time I saw it.
A younger me would probably be upset by it, but like, that's the end. That's so dumb. You know, like, I don't know. But older me that is more experienced and calmer, I feel like can enjoy what it is. And there's things that you can take away, and there's things that you can, like, is there a reason for the frogs? Is there deeper meaning? All that stuff is not going to be answered for you, but it's stuff that you can have fun with your friends debating or talking about or whatever. But
yeah, it's just weird to me that it's like the kind of thing, maybe again, when I was younger and I was more like passionate about debating shit like that. But like now I have no interest in even like theorizing. Like,
why?
It's just a thing that happens in the movie and it doesn't hurt the film for me. So like, I don't want to read, like, you know, think pieces online about what people think it means, or like search down, is there an interview where Paul Thomas Anderson addresses it? Like, I just don't care. It's just a thing that happens in the movie. That's fine.
I think for me, it's like, I took something away from it based off of the verse that was given. But it's not like a make or break or even an important really part to the movie for me. Like, it's just a thing that happened. What I find interesting is it happens and people are like, whoa, it's raining frogs. And then it's just like not that big of a deal. Yeah. It's like nobody makes a big deal out of like frogs raining down from the sky. I always love that kind of thing where it's like this surreal moment happens. And instead of like the extreme panic that most people would have in the real world, it's just sort of like, oh yeah, it was raining frogs. That's kind of crazy.
You know what it makes me think of is there's an episode of The Simpsons, one of the Treehouse of Horror episodes where it's like an anthology of like spooky stories for Halloween. And it's called Time and Punishment. And it's about Homer accidentally invents a time machine out of his toaster in the basement. And he keeps going back in time into like the Jurassic era. And he's trying not to touch anything because he's like, my father told me on my wedding day, like, if you ever go back in time, don't touch anything because it could affect the future. And he like accidentally steps on like a bug or something, comes back to the present, and it's like a, you know, fascist police state. And then he runs back and he goes back in time again. At the end of the episode, it's like everything seems normal. And then he asks Marge for a donut, and she's like, donut? What's a donut? And you look outside and donuts are falling from the sky. Like, that's what rain is in this universe.
Oh, that's funny.
Like, it almost makes me think like, okay, well, could this be an alternate universe where frogs falling from the sky is just a normal occurrence? And that's why nobody acts weird? Yeah. Like, maybe it's not strange to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we get into the box office stuff?
I mean, there's plenty else to discuss, but I mean, we don't have to stay here all night. Well, I guess one thing I would ask, so, I mean, I do think Tom Cruise is good in it, and I do think it's an interesting role for him to have played at the time. If this movie came out like right after the whole jumping on the couch thing, I think he might have been in trouble.
Yeah.
But the thing that I found, so like I'm watching some of the special features, like I said, after I finished the movie, and I'm even looking at like the trailers. There's like a whole bunch of different TV spots on the Blu-ray. And there was a thing where Paul Thomas Anderson said that, you know, Tom Cruise was like the biggest star in the cast at the time. So like the studio, like I guess what had happened was on Boogie Nights, he didn't have complete creative control and he like fought with the studio a little bit. So when that movie was a big success and they came to him, like I said earlier, and said like, you can make whatever you want. Part of his thing was like, I want full creative control. And he like wasn't happy with the way they advertised, or like he wasn't happy with like the trailers and the posters that they designed for Magnolia. So he cut his own trailer and he designed his own poster for the movie, because apparently just because of Tom Cruise, and I think he was nominated for Best Actor, and I think he might have won, or Best Supporting or something, and won like the Golden Globe. The studio was really pushing to like Tom Cruise. Let everybody know it's Tom Cruise. But Paul Thomas Anderson was like, it's an ensemble. I want it to be more about the movie and the ensemble than one person. But like the person that got all the praise at the time was Tom Cruise. Like, do you think that's earned? Like, do you feel like he was like the standout performance, or like the movie in any way, shape, or form like rests on his shoulders?
No.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I think that's also indicative of the fact that he got a nomination for supporting, right? Like,
yeah,
there is no lead actor in this movie. I'd be hard pressed to say who the lead is. Maybe Philip Baker Hall, maybe.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of the stuff revolves around him, but that doesn't mean that nobody feels like the lead. And that's one of the great things about it. And I think that's why it's great that Paul Thomas Anderson was able to flex those muscles and say, like, you're not going to make this all about Tom Cruise.
Yeah. I mean, Jason Robards had some really, really good monologues in the movie as well.
Yeah. I mean, that one at the end where he's talking and it cuts to like montage of other scenes happening with his voice underneath of it.
So good.
Like right at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that seemed to be a theme. There were like entire advertisements for the movie that the studio did after the fact that were just like pushing Tom Cruise and making it seem like the entire plot of the film is about this father and his son and like the distance between them or whatever.
It's easy to see why they would press Tom Cruise, though. I mean, he's the biggest star in the movie, if not the world, in the late 90s, right? Like, you definitely want to use that to promote the movie. I could see the wrestling there between Paul Thomas Anderson and the studios. Box office, a budget of $37 million, only brought in 48.5. Not surprising. It's a 3-hour auteur, right? Like, it's not like it's not going to put up huge numbers. It opened wide January 7th in 1,000 theaters. In 2000, it was technically opened, small in December 17th, but then opened wide in January.
I mean, that's classic. They were just like trying to get in there for nominations.
Yeah, grossed 5.6 at 7th place behind Stuart Little, The Green Mile, The Talented Mr. Ripley, Any Given Sunday, Galaxy Quest, and Toy Story 2. I look at that and I just think, man, I miss those days, because I've been looking to go to the theater as much as I can because I want to like go see movies. There's nothing to see in theaters right now. It's insane. And you see, look at this, like Stuart Little, Green Mile, Talented Mr. Ripley, Any Given Sunday. I mean, I would have gone to the theater to see it. I wouldn't be happy after I left, but I would have definitely gone to the theater to see it. I
mean, that's just the world we're in now. Everything has to be an IP or a sequel or an adaptation or a remake.
Yeah. It stayed in the theaters until the end of January and left theaters in the beginning of April. 82% on Rotten Tomatoes. Roger Ebert said, Magnolia is operatic in its ambition, a great joyous leap in melodrama and coincidence, with raged emotions, crimes and punishments, deathbed scenes, romantic dreams, generational turmoil, and celestial intervention, all scored to insistent music. 4 out of 4. I think it's a good summary by old Raj there. Charles Taylor of Salon.com said Magnolia is a sort of bad film that's clearly the misstep of a very talented filmmaker. At times in the jokey griminess of the prologue, or a dumb crack about Jimmy Gator being a family man, While we see him screwing a young woman in his office, Anderson gives a smirky, cynical, smart-ass tone that's beneath his talents. It's crazy to me how critics just want to shit on things. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels like, it's like, how do I stand out? Let me shit on this really good movie because you're coming off of Boogie Nights, right? Like, it's easy to think now, how many 30 years later, or almost 30 years later, 25 years later, and put things into perspective. These are reviews that came out in late 2000, early 2000, late 99, and the balls to say these things about this movie is just insane to me. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the movie. This is the kind of movie where I could easily see someone getting to the end of it and being like, that's just pretentious bullshit. Like, not even necessarily critiquing the performances, but just thinking that the whole premise of the movie, and then like the frog thing being like the big capper that like they can't handle because they don't understand. I could easily see it not working for people, but I mean, I don't know, bad film?
Yeah, that's insane to me. Especially,
like, even if you don't like it or you don't understand it, I mean, it's still incredibly well made.
It's so well made. And again, this is coming off of Boogie Nights, where everyone's all on PTSD, right? He's got so much accolades, so much respect coming off that movie, and this is his follow-up. So it's like expectation. What do you want? Is he really that good? You know what I mean? Like, that's what this review to me sounds like. It's just like, get off your high horse a little bit, man. Lisa Schwarzbaum of Entertainment Weekly says the botanical implications are apt. Paul Thomas Anderson's big showy flower of a movie unfurls brilliantly. B+. Someone's trying to win an award for their reviews, I guess.
She like doesn't really understand, but wants to sound like she does.
Yeah.
I mean, that's yet another thing that I glommed from the special features, is that apparently Paul Thomas Anderson had it in his head that he wanted to call a movie Magnolia, which made it seem like, before he even came up with this movie, which makes it seem to me like Magnolia, either he fit a meaning into it just because he liked that as a title, which is a weird title to be like fond of, just the name of a fucking flower, or just decided to use it and it has no meaning. But I don't know. It's just another thing that I heard that he said that made me go, really?
That is pretty funny. Peter Rainier of New York Magazine says, I wish I could join in the chorus of praise for Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia, because I think he's extremely gifted. But this San Fernando Valley-based epic of alienation features often remarkable actors and mostly unremarkable situations. The movie I saw seemed more like a, what's that word? Concatenation?
Concatenation?
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
Of soap opera stories with an epistemological, a biblical overlay than... Gosh, this is New York Magazine. Overlay than like something deserving of comparisons it's been receiving to prime Robert Altman or heaven forfend Eugene O'Neill. Like, if you want to talk pretentious, it's this review of this movie. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, he's talking about how it's remarkable actors in unremarkable situations. Like, it's like character interactions and relationships and, like, you know, interpersonal drama. Like, you're not allowed to do that. Like, you can't take a big actor like Julianne Moore or William H. Macy and just have them be like sad or yearn for something. Like, he makes it sound like they had to be on like a ship at sea, like fighting a storm for their lives or something, or it's not worth putting them in the movie. Like,
it's such a weird
the whole point of the movie is it's like everybody's in their own little microcosm and they have like shit that they're dealing with, but like looking at the bigger picture and seeing how everybody connects, it's like everybody has these problems. Like, nobody is unique. What is his problem with that? I don't understand.
It's so pretentious, man. Concatenation means interconnected, by the way. So that's a smart way. It's the New York Magazine way of saying that. Emmanuel Levy of Variety said, peppered with beguiling appearances with luminous turns by Cruise, Walters, Hall, and Riley, a piercing commentary on both estranged and renewal, Magnolia is a remarkable, inventive, audacious film that almost overcomes its flaws.
Man, it sounds like more people were against him than with him.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And then finally, David Denby of the New Yorker said, everyone has a favorite bad movie.
Oh,
Magnolia is a rare case of a great, terrible movie. Most of it fairly commonplace, Arthur Miller type stuff about how you can't escape the past. You can't escape the evil you've done. And what we all really need is to be truthful with one another. It's these reviews are nuts, man. It's
this
nuts.
guy sounds like he gets it, but he like is afraid to say that he likes it.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Like he's describing what the movie is, and there's nothing wrong with what that movie is, but he's saying that it's bad. He even says like everyone has a favorite bad movie. This is a great, terrible movie. Like, why are you just afraid to say that you liked it?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Too many other critics were like trashing on it, so you just had to join in.
It's crazy. It's crazy when you read some of these reviews, especially from people like the New Yorker, where like, it almost feels like this movie was made for them, and they're like, "No, I'm not going to enjoy this. This is not my style." It's crazy.
I know, it's weird. It's just weird because, like, yes, Boogie Nights deals with, you know, kind of lurid. It's like this weird little pocket of like the era in which it takes place that some people are nostalgic for, and people who were born after that era have no knowledge or recollection of.
Mm-hmm.
But within that world, it's a very mainstream movie, like dealing with non-mainstream stuff. So this time it's like he made a movie dealing with mainstream stuff that's not mainstream, and people like it one way but not the other.
It's nuts.
Like, it has to be like presented to us in like an acceptable, typical package. Otherwise we can't enjoy the perfectly good stories that are taking place within the movie.
It's crazy to me because the performances are so good. I think the story is super interesting. Even if you take away the frogs, man, the movie still works to 100%. And I'm not saying take away the frogs, but if you do, the movie still works. It's crazy to me. All right, awards. Nominated for 3 Academy Awards: Best Supporting Actor for Tom Cruise, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Original Song. It won none of those. It did win Tom Cruise the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor, and it was nominated for Best Original Song. And we're not going to do this every episode, but it's crazy to think that this movie was not nominated for Best Picture. Like, we watched The Cider House Rules as our first episode. I would put that in that movie, over that movie, like 1,000 times, over 1,000 times. The Green Mile, I think, is worthy. The Insider I haven't seen, and then The Sixth Sense. So like, take out The Cider House Rules and put in Magnolia for real. Like, it's pretty nuts.
I mean, I liked Cider House Rules, but I would agree that if you could only have 5, this probably deserves a chance over that one.
Yeah, not nominated for Best Director, Sam Mendes. One for American Beauty. The guy from The Cider House Rules was also nominated. Spike Jonze for being John Malkovich. Michael Mann and M. Night Shyamalan. Again, The Cider House Rules is fine.
What a year.
But it's like, put in Magnolia is like way more deserved. Paul Thomas Anderson should at least minimum be nominated. And then, okay, again, this is not just the shit on The Cider House Rules, but Michael Caine won for Best Supporting Actor over Tom Cruise in this, and Michael Clark Duncan, and Haley Joel Osment. It's bananas. Like, of all of the performances, he's fine. He's fine, but not anywhere near holding a candle to what Tom Cruise did in this, or even the actors that I mentioned in the other ones. No supporting actress nominations for any of the actresses in this movie is pretty criminal. I haven't seen American Beauty yet, so I can't tell you if it's a better screenplay than Magnolia, but at least it got nominated there.
I mean, honestly, it feels like with only 5 spots for nominations, they're like, we can only put in one like kind of weird off-kilter drama, and they picked American Beauty over this one. Is kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Original song went to Tarzan, You'll Be in My Heart. Big thumbs down there. I would have given it to Blame Canada over that, which was nominated.
I mean, I like You'll Be in My Heart.
It's okay.
You'll be in my heart.
Tarzan is just so forgettable to me. When She Loved Me, even from Toy Story 2, I think is a better song than that.
Oh man, I mean, was that written for that?
Yep.
I guess it was. Yeah. Oh, that fucking song. Anytime there's I'm scrolling through reels on Instagram and I see an animal and I hear that song, I just immediately have to go past it because it's going to be too fucking sad for me to handle.
Oh boy. So yeah, definitely got snubbed as far as awards go. Like it's super deserving in my opinion. As far as cultural impact, I mean, this is the rise of Paul Thomas Anderson coming off of Boogie Nights. And then as I was Googling this, if you Google Magnolia movie or film or whatever, what immediately comes up is, what does this mean? What is Magnolia about? And what it's like, it feels like this was, before the internet exploded. This was as the rise of the internet was happening, the start of explain this movie to me, please, internet. And it's just like, this movie isn't about it's not about being explained. It's about what do you take away from it. And
I mean, we didn't have YouTube yet, so you couldn't have people just immediately going and posting videos
right.
with like their theories and
right.
everything wrong with Magnolia in 6 minutes.
Oh my gosh. I'm sure that exists and I hate it.
How it should have ended. Magnolia.
Oh my gosh. I have so many. I have so many like blocked terms on YouTube. Like I don't want to see anything that is a react to anything. Like
yeah,
this film student reacts to the ending of Magnolia. It's like get the
I
hell
don't
out
like
of here.
those video essays where people like break something down. I don't like any of that stuff. I just can't handle it. Like if other people enjoy it, fine, watch it. I'm not telling anybody not to, but I just can't personally stand watching that stuff.
I feel like this is where the seeds were planted for all that stuff.
Paul Thomas Anderson dodged a bullet putting this movie
yes.
out like 4 years before YouTube came around or whatever.
Yep. As far as notes go, Tom Cruise, a fan of Boogie Nights, met PTA while filming Eyes Wide Shut, expressed interest in working together. After reading his script for it, Cruise called back and said he was interested but nervous. And that makes sense. I mean, the character's a scumbag. But him and the head of New Line were able to convince him to join on. And that's awesome because he was really, really good.
I mean, have you seen Eyes Wide Shut?
Yeah.
I mean, he was taking some chances there, too.
I think that's what's interesting is going from Eyes Wide Shut to Magnolia, I feel like is a pretty strong 1-2 combo.
Yeah. For sure.
And then at the end of the film, frogs rain from the sky. I mentioned this. Throughout the film, there are references to the book of Exodus 8:2, which says, and if thou refuse to let them go, behold, I will smite all thy borders with frogs. So even if he says it, didn't know, it's in this movie. So I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So you've seen the movie prior to this recording.
Yep.
You did not miss it. So the question, I guess, for me is, did I miss it? And it's a big, obvious, yeah, I totally missed it.
Sometimes people need to be forgiven. And sometimes they need to go to jail. And that is a very tricky thing on my part. Making that call. And the law is the law. And heck if I'm gonna break it. Well, that's the tough part. What can we forgive? Tough part of the job. Tough part of walking down the street.
Much like Lock, Stock, this is one of those like, oh gosh, I should have taken the time. But at the same time, like 20-year-old me might not have enjoyed it the way 43-year-old me would have. So
Lord of the Rings wasn't out yet, so.
That's right. There's no way I was going to the theater to watch a 3-hour movie about people talking about how sad they were in 1990. It's just that's not who I was at all. And
I wish that I had the technology to go back in time and just have lunch with Jesse in 1999, like before you discovered fantasy and like movies and when you were still like, I'm not going to get out of bed to go be in a movie.
Yeah. Different cat for sure. All right, so that's a good one. Glad to have crossed that one off the list, and definitely missed it. Glad to have seen Magnolia. Big fan. Gonna have to really go back and start rewatching some of his stuff because I haven't seen his first movie. What was it called?
Hard 8.
Hard 8. Haven't seen that. I saw Punch Drunk Love like 15 years ago or something. It's been forever since I've seen that.
Punch Drunk Love is awesome.
There Will Be Blood I've seen, and I remember really enjoying it, but I haven't seen it since it's come out.
Also awesome.
The Master I've never seen.
I wasn't crazy about The Master. I mean, it's a lot of Philip Seymour Hoffman for you.
Yeah.
But I like this movie. I like Boogie Nights. I like Punch Drunk Love. I like There Will Be Blood. I was not crazy about The Master. Maybe requires a rewatch. I saw Inherent Vice in the theater, and I was so bored and confused. Like, I just did not know what I was watching. That's another one, though. I know a lot of people love it. I'd like to go back and rewatch it, but...
Yeah, I haven't seen that either. Phantom Thread I haven't seen, but I've heard good things. Wasn't that Daniel Day-Lewis's movie? Yeah.
Allegedly. I mean, he's still alive, so anything could happen, but...
Well, up until now, it's... How many years? 7 years since, and he hasn't done anything. So.
God damn, is it that long since Phantom Thread?
2017.
Jesus Christ. Time just doesn't exist anymore since COVID, I swear.
Yep. And then Licorice
Pizza I want to see. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, but...
Yeah, same.
I think that was one that like didn't really play in the theater around me, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, 2021, right? Like, we're coming off of COVID.
Yeah.
It kind of gets lost in the thick of any of it anyways. So, yeah, I definitely want to see that. Working on a movie. It comes out next year starring Leo DiCaprio, Regina Hall, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, BC, under the working title BC Project. So
BC Project.
Don't know what that is, but we'll be interested to see. But yeah.
Bitcoin.
$115 million budget for a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. That seems a little nuts, but
Bitcoin Project. Yeah, that's what it stands for.
You got to pay Leo. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of Movies I Missed. Come back next time for Stigmata. We'll be talking about the movie Stigmata. I'm Jesse Munoz.
Ryan Miller.
This is Movies I Missed. Come back for Stigmata.